Okay, we're ready to go. Is everyone here?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Cool. Okay. So DevSync, what I did in the past 2 weeks, I started a good amount of work on the RC delegations, but it's nowhere near a state where it can be shown or reviewed, but work is in progress. Meanwhile, I worked on my testnet faucet, which I assume will come in handy for testers. I expect that this will go live probably this week. And also I started, this is linked to some of the things we'll talk today, but I have started to implement a few of the new consensus operations in Hive.js. And yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, I'm probably not going to get into everything we worked on this week because it's just a bunch of small things, and I'll document that more in detail in my report, since putting out one probably today or tomorrow. But just quick overview stuff. We ran into, we fixed one of the issues with duplicate transactions and account history, but we had also found there was another source of that, and so that's kind of the last issue that we're currently working on before we put out a release candidate 2. Essentially, the last irreversible block could be undone by undo operations. So this has been an issue that's been around forever, just wasn't noticed until we got into heavy testing. And when I say around forever, I mean, years. So we've got a fix. We have a fix we're trying for that, and once that's the last thing, so probably we'll have a second release candidate out for Hive Thursday or Friday. At this point, we just after we make the change, we'll have to run a Hive. We do have to replay and a Hive mind sync. So that's the biggest delay. I think we'll probably have the fix itself done today or tomorrow. Let's see other issues. I did a bunch of testing on starting up Hive and fixed a bunch of bugs related to startup, which I'll again document in more detail later. We added a few network API calls that are used by the testing tools. Things that we want to do still, I want to have somebody update the build instructions, and also the Docker build probably needs some love. So I think Gandalf's going to look at that, but if anybody else wants to assist as well, that would be great. He mentioned one problem already, which is that the Docker build uses a simplified base image that it starts from, and that exists for older versions of Ubuntu, but the one for 20 isn't a stable version. So that's kind of an issue to be figured out. Two other things, I guess, on Hive to note. One is probably mostly for you, how we have a new way you can do logging. It's basically the standard logging, but it has a simplified syntax you can use. And I'll just send you an example of it later. It's a nice little improvement. It's just a syntactic sugar thing. It saves you a little bit of typing. And then I guess the other big thing is we've got a new Python-based library that we're using right now for testing, and we're using for testing Hive and CLI wallet. So basically, this is replacing BeamPy for our testing. And that may be used for more things beyond testing eventually, but in which case we'll have to rebrand it. But currently we're calling it Test Tools, just for a name to start with. That's its immediate purpose. So other things, we ran some tests of recurrent transfers, and it used more memory than we were expecting in some of the tests, is my understanding. I haven't delved into it a lot. Bartek could probably talk about it more. But so we'd like you to take a look at that, I guess, and see if you can help us out and figure out why the memory is more than we expected it to be. I think in the test that Bartek said he was expecting around 5 or 8, maybe, I can't remember, 5 or 8 gigabytes of data to be allocated, and allocated about 40 gigabytes. So obviously that's something that needs a little attention. And the other thing is, so we're going to need to support recurrent transfers for the API libraries, and obviously it's a bigger issue of all the different things we want the API libraries to support and the new features. But I think it'd be nice if we have a way that the API libraries can have these things show up as regular transfers, so that an exchange, for instance, won't have to modify their code in order to recognize recurrent transfers to them. So I think I was looking at it, it looks like you've got virtual operations that get emitted each time a recurrent transfer happens. And what I'm thinking is, somebody could, when they do like a call to get account history, to get the list of transactions, there could be an option in that call to, like a default option that would convert those to look like normal transfers as far as the user of the library is concerned. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting. I'll have to take a look at it.
Yes, for few further details, I have put to the issue describing today's meeting a branch where a unit test has been created. It just creates maximum amount of recurrent transfers for 10% of estimated accounts. So there is 120,000 accounts using max allowed number of recurrent transfers. And what really surprised me, chain tests in such configuration allocated 40 gigabytes of memory. And right now we still don't know really where this memory was allocated for what. Our calculations shown basing on size of recurrent transfer object and additional memory required by multi-index shown that it should take 6 to maybe 8. It's underestimate to 8 gigabytes, and really that was surprise. Maybe it was related to some memo storage, but we'll try to confirm it. And this, because I'm not quite sure that unit tests really have the same execution environment as regular blockchain code, I asked for implementing the same scenario, but using our new Python tools and executing such the same number of operations and creating accounts on regular testnet blockchain node. So I hope we will see in next day or two how it behaves in real blockchain code, and also how it will behave during executing so huge amount of numbers transfers during regular transaction processing. So I hope it will pass successfully and node will be able to process regular transactions. If not, of course, we will need to decide what to do next. But first, I'd like to confirm memory allocation. And of course, how if you have some ideas related to some reasons why it could took such big amount of memory, please contact, and we will try to eliminate it together.
Yeah, out of the top of my head, I don't really see what would take that much, because the objects are pretty simple, like apart from the memo really, and I don't think if there is a limitation on the size of the memo. That's probably something we could look into. Maybe it's the storage of how the memo is actually stored, but it's a shared string, so that also should be fine. Yeah, it's very odd. But if yeah, I was gonna, at first when I saw your comment, I thought it was like a bit much than what we expected, and I was gonna suggest to just reduce the maximum amount of open recurrent transfers that you can have. But yeah, 4 days, something is definitely odd. And yeah, it could be the index, but I don't see how the index would like multiply it that much. So
no, I don't think so. All such huge allocation is caused by multi-index. I suspect that this is caused by this memo string, but from other point, we need that to put it into virtual operation, notifying about executing the transfer. But we will see.
Yeah.
Maybe that's some different thing, and I personally hope that there is something strange in a unit test environment. Maybe some additional things, additional allocations caused by, I don't know, debug plugin or something. Executing the same scenario on regular blockchain code via regular transactions will show us if problem really can appear or not. So I think this is best what we can check right now.
Yeah, I agree. But very interesting though, because it could mean that if that's the case, then that means we might have to fix something on the test environment because it doesn't match the reality.
Yeah, well, I guess that's part of the reasons we're working on this test tool, just to make these kind of tests as well as the unit tests, because they test a more realistic scenario than the unit tests do.
Yeah, true.
Let's see. So yeah, I guess the other thing I was just, okay, so that's kind of the Hive side of things. We did I tested the development branch of HiveMind this week on api.hive.blog, and one issue came up with one of the API calls was slower, but it turned out it wasn't so much code changes, it just happened to be slower because SQL is SQL and can change unpredictably depending on random chance. So I had to increase statistics for one of the columns of one of the tables, and that allows it to make a better plan, basically. So just one more thing to learn about how SQL works. So now that's with that change, performance is just as good or better on all the development branch. So that's looking good. So I think we're gonna do an official release of HiveMind this week. I'm trying to see if there's anything we're still holding off on before we do it. I think we're ready to go. I think there's no more changes. Yeah, there's no more changes we're planning on putting in. So we're basically just going to take the development merchant into master and tag a release for that. And then we'll start getting the API node operators to update to it. Modular HiveMind, there's still work going on, but I won't get into details of that here. And we also fixed a few bugs in Condenser, but again, nothing major. So testnet's probably the thing I want to spend most of the time talking about today, testnet and testing. So we've got at this point, we've got the testnet's been deployed for a while. We've got an API node deployed off that testnet, and we've got a condenser, we've got a peakd, and we've got a block explorer all hooked up to it. So anybody can go to that now and actually do things on the testnet. And we're also going to have a wallet there for Hive.blog soon. I mean, for condenser wallet should be up there soon. But in the meantime, somebody can still do wallet operations with peakd as well. But I would like to see more of the applications get their test hook up to the testnet, and the ones that are there, I'd like to see them start doing work to integrate the new operations and test them, specifically recurrent transfers, voter expiration, and something else. But anyways, the conversion, Hive to HBD conversion. We really need to see somebody testing them before we release, because I mean, we know they work as far as unit tests have tested them all, but we want to be sure they work in a way that everybody likes in terms of the apps interface. So I would really like to see the APIs tested and approved by the apps that are going to be using them. So this is just a call out to everyone who has an app that might use any of these features. Please start looking and implementing it now. Let's not wait till it's out in the mainnet, because if it's out in the mainnet, then the changes get harder. It's much easier if we make the changes now before then. Okay, so I guess that's end of DevSync, and let's move into maybe more talk about that, unless anybody else is going to talk about anything else they worked on this week.
Okay. Yeah, I guess while we're on the topic of the testnet, I'll skip over to Bartek's comments so we can talk about the various points. Mm-hmm. So one, how goes public testing of account expiration due to lack of governance activity? I don't think that has been tested.
I asked somebody to, yeah, I don't think we have so I don't even know, does anybody know when that rolls over in the testnet? Maybe Gandalf would know. I think we did a test of something else. We tested the Hive conversion code. We did a test of that on the testnet, which I don't know if it's finished or not yet. But I don't think, For the voter expiration, how often, does anybody know how often the voter expiration expires?
After a year, I think.
Well,
After
yeah,
a
but I
year
mean
of
on the
testing.
test net.
Yes. What are the settings for the testnet? I don't know right now.
Okay.
I'll have to check.
Okay, maybe you could just mention that later in the testnet channel once you find out.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, no one's tested that to my knowledge on the testnet, and no one's tested, other than us, no one's tested the Hive to HBD conversion operation. And I'd also just like to see some of the APIs, some of the wallets start showing the voter expiration times.
Yeah. So I guess that covers most of it. Like have front-end extended features, I don't think so, about the notifications and stuff. About recurrent transfer and proposal update. So proposal update has been updated in Hive.js, so front-ends can update their code to support it. Recurrent transfers, I put up a merge request today, so I'll have to sync with some of the maintainers of Hive.js so people can sync on it too. Then there is the topic about recurrent transfers, and it's taking much more memory than expected. Well, I guess this has been talked about. Has anyone tested the new HBD conversion and the new author/creator rewarding? As far as I know, none. Although I'm expecting to release a guide sometime this week or early next week to basically, explain it to everyone how they can join the testnet and help and test things.
That'd be great.
It should go with the faucet basically, because I feel like people will need money there if they didn't have at the time of the when Tinman copied everything.
Yeah, and I guess what I want to emphasize here is the idea is this is our new way of testing. I mean, traditional way for apps to be testing is they just test directly on the mainnet. And I really want to get us away from that model and more towards where apps first test on the testnet before they test on the mainnet. Should be the same if they, and it's a lot less headaches for us, and it'll also allow them to incorporate new features faster if they're working off the testnet rather than the mainnet for their testing.
Yeah.
Of course, to be clear, current testnet has all the accounts that were at the mainnet at the time of creation of testnet imported, so anyone can join with their own account to the testnet, of course, keeping their keys safe.
Yeah, that's definitely a cool feature. So that's done. I guess we'll put some more emphasis on that testing. Then some stuff for the future. So one idea was brought up, I think, basically that I thought of when we did the recurrent transfers. Recurrent transfer, I think, is the first one which has a quote-unquote dynamic RC that depend on like the content of the operations. For instance, it costs more if you want to execute like 100 recurrent transfers versus just 10. So I was thinking of extending that operation, that logic to more operations like commenting or even, let's say, custom JSON. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
So, I mean, would this be, I mean, it's dynamic, and what are you going to base the new computation off of?
It's dynamic in the sense that, there is a notion of like operation bytes per thing.
Right, so that already exists, right? Or you're saying right now the bytes isn't accounted for when they do the RC calculation for a custom operation?
I don't think so. I think it's
really.
I think it's like there is like a baseline and that's it. It's not like dynamic based on what you actually put in the operation.
Oh, I would have assumed that was already done. So okay.
Actually, I had some idea related to improving RC counting of operation costs, and I think we are really close to have already collected some performance data during reindex operation. I mean, probably we have collected time of execution each kind of operation during replay. And my idea seems that we could use such data to generate some parameters, specific to given node at a given witness server. And next, the given witness could use some configuration file just to point it to its RC plugin installation. And this way, he will have cost of execution of the average cost of execution of each operation in the blockchain. And I think this solution could be most accurate to real values and maybe better to constant values usually taken just because of some thinking on suspicion that we really don't know
expensive.
how. Yes.
Yeah, I think this will be expensive. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, obviously, I think all this should be. I mean, from my point of view, I feel like these are topics we should be addressing after the hard fork.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's not like for
yes,
right now.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the future.
Yeah. I guess I would like to figure out how to figure out more what we can do right now. I mean, your faucet's a great idea. That's something that's definitely needed for the test net. Is there other things that I guess we need for the test net? I know there was a keychain. There was a change made to keychain. Does Hive Signer work on the test net? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay, so that's something I think we should make sure happens. Gandalf, do you know by any chance?
No, I don't remember. I'll ask Karma about that.
Okay, so I mean, I'd like to I think we should go through a list of things like that, and maybe there's no more than we can think of, but where we want to be sure that these things get tested on the test net and are available on the test net for other people, because some of these things are support things. I mean, Keychain and Hive Signer are needed by other apps to, function. So I think we ought to, I feel like we need to make sure we've got all the check boxes checked there in order to facilitate apps testing. So it's kind of an open question, but I feel like what we need to do is actually offline, we build up a list of all the common apps and just start banging on each owner to say, what do you need in order to test your application on the test net? And do you have enough to do it now? And will you? And if so, why not?
Yeah. Well, I feel like also a lot of the apps will not be using the new features that are brought up.
Even so, I would like them to test their app.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, because first of all, it helps identify if there's been any change that we don't know about. I mean, this can happen. And it also, I mean, it'll get them in the right mode where that's where they're doing the development for initial development.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, yeah. In terms of testnet, what else do we need? I guess it would be great to have a testnet.hive.io with all of the information in one spot. Oh, I guess it could be in developers, but like just one page where you can see like API nodes, how to create.
Yeah, that would. I think you're right. That's a great idea to have just a
faucet, etc.
Yeah, information on the testnet all in one place would be, because right now it's scattered on some posts and in the testnet Mattermost channel. So yeah, a site would be, especially since we're moving towards this is a permanent thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially because it's permanent. A testnet info page would also be very, very helpful. Yeah, exactly. That's well, I hope to get basically I hope to get that going on top of the faucet, because on the faucets that would kind of be the entry point for anyone wanting to go on the testnet, even though they already have an account and may not have like tokens to play around, depending on when the snapshot was made. So yeah, by the way, speaking of tokens, did you guys change the init miner key or not?
No, so you can be rich.
Okay, I'll take a bunch. Okay, yeah. I have a few other points, but I feel like it's better to talk through them at a later point.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, because I feel like the focus was mostly about testnets anyways. And most of those would be kind of wasted to talk right now because we want to talk to them again in like a month or so.
Yeah, that sounds good. So on the testnet, what was else? I was thinking something. So you're talking about setting up a site to give the information. I guess your faucet's going to hook into that init miner account.
I think I would. I don't know. Yeah, maybe probably.
Or maybe you'll just transfer some funds from it.
Yeah,
to
I'm
your
afraid
faucet.
that I'm saying the init miner.
Yeah,
account.
okay, that's fine. That makes sense.
So yeah.
So I guess, and actually that might be another thing. So some of the accounts might rely on Hive SQL or something like that for their applications. So that might be something we need to talk to Archange about.
If only he was in the meeting with us.
It's just the first time he's not, almost.
No, he's in.
Oh, he is. Okay, I thought he's usually here. I guess, how difficult is that to do, Archange? Do you know?
To do what?
If you wanted to hook up a small copy of Hive SQL that worked off the testnet, because it's not a lot of data, right? So
yeah, it should be quite easy to do. I plan this week, because we are already Monday. I plan to to connect Hive SQL code to the testnet to make it run and at least pass all transactions for it to be ready when we go prod. But do you need to be able to access the data from Hive SQL?
Well, I don't, but maybe some of the other apps will. I mean, I don't know. That
yeah.
It really depends on the apps, and you probably know who's using it better than I would. So if I guess you'd want to communicate with those guys and see if they'll need access to it. I wouldn't be surprised if some did need access to it. That's why I brought it up. Okay,
so I will make a post about it and asking if people need the database. But my schedule was to make Hive SQL testnet compatible this week.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess so. Like I said, we're coming out with a second release candidate for Hive D, as well as the release of Hive Mind. So with that coming out, I suppose we'll update the testnet at that time. Does that sound right, Gandalf? You probably this weekend, I guess you would be updating the testnet to release candidate. Okay.
Okay.
How much interruption time will you expect with that?
Oh, why interruption? Like
I mean, when you're doing
professional blockchain.
What's that?
No, it's we just do
sync up.
I guess replay is enough for a node too. We will continue on the same chain.
All right. I know we'll continue on the same one, but I'm just wondering. I mean, so we're gonna have to swap in two different Hive D. I mean,
no interruption, I guess.
Okay. Good.
Also, if anyone is interested in setting up their own API node for the testnet, Hive Mind needs less than half gigabyte of storage space. So it's really nothing demanding. So if anyone wants to run their full API, it's easy and just 2 GB RAM machine. Oh no, HiveMind itself takes some RAM, but it's not a lot of resources needed to run all the pieces that you need for testnet.
So that actually makes me think of one thing, which is, do we want to periodically reset the testnet? I mean, we can run it for quite a while, but I mean, obviously we could just keep running it all the time, but we might want to reset it periodically just to keep the resources that it requires from going up too high. I don't know what.
Yes, and that was initial idea, and I think Michael set up the limit for the block height for the testnet.
Okay, so there's something already in there for that, or just?
I don't remember that exactly, but yes, I think that there's a limit, and definitely we would like to restart testnet from time to time.
Yeah,
especially
and
like for example, because init miner key, it's much easier for developers to have it default. So, for example, how I want to use it for a faucet. And of course, if someone wants to play with it, we might end up quickly with init miner being empty. So with that scenario, we of course can continue to run, but of course, from time to time we will reset that.
Right. So we need to figure out how. I guess we don't really have a good feel yet for how far we should let it run, but I don't know if it's 5 million blocks or what. But and then we'll also, of course, when we do that, we're going to have to reset all the Hive mines and everything too. So
yes,
we'll
but we will start preparing new snapshot from mainnet for the account, of course,
yes.
before we shut down. So there shouldn't be huge gaps between each instance of testnet.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
That's all I can think of.
Yeah, that's on my side too.
Anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
Please start using testnet and
that's a thought.
Vote other witnesses, because now it's like 20 Gandalfs.
Yeah, I plan on running one very soon. Pretty much.
Also, it's a good scenario because we can vote with using same votes, but your vote will be fresher.
That's true.
I mean, this expiration, governance expiration. But of course, we need to figure out the values for the testnet first.
I think right now it's 20. If I read something sent to me in direct message, so we probably will. I guess we should reduce that for the release candidate too. We'll change that time down to something faster so that we can see it take effect. So we'll probably just put it a couple days.
A couple of days or 5 days maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you figure that one out.
So that's another change that we've come out of this, is that we need to update the governance expiration date for the testnet. Okay. Yeah. I think that's it.
Well, have a nice one, everyone, and see you guys.
Thanks.
I guess.
Yep. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
See you. Thank you.